Welcome to Ion Franchising, where you will learn the A to Z's of franchising. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another fabulous episode of Ion Franchising. I am your host, Lance Graulich. So, as I talk to people every single day, practically 7 days a week about franchises, a lot of people are seeing stuff about the boring, unsexy, awful-sounding businesses. Plumbing, for example, that they wouldn't necessarily do. Well, guess what? What if I can show you, and the two guests I have today can show you a recipe for fun? I said it, fun. Well, welcome today. I got my friend Sarah Moritz, who is the president of Flower Power, and we're going to talk to her in a second, as well as Michael Mabry. And Michael's the managing director of One Life Brands. We're going to talk to them right now. So welcome to the show, Michael and Sarah.
Thank you, Lance.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Thank you for both being here. Sarah, you first. Ladies first. How'd you get into the world of baking and franchising?
Sure. So in I had a very unconventional path here. And a lot of it has to do with a guy that's also on the call with us today, with Michael. So I previously, before I joined Flower Power, I was with an IT startup that was called Pegasus Technology Solutions. And when it was myself and three other gentlemen, and we started out, I showed up on the scene. We had a PO box and a bank account, and we knew that we had about 9 months runway. And if we didn't sell anything in that 9 months, if things did not turn out, we were all going to be looking for new jobs. And I thought, why not? You know, this sounds fun. So we jumped out in that. And then about 4 years down the road, we were clocking in about 26 million. So yeah, it was a fun adventure. IT, as you know, can be really interesting industry to be in. It is broad, it is vast, it is demanding, it is unrelenting, and the whole world runs on it, right? So I really got my first introduction into not only business management, right, but to the nth degree, and from all angles, and so yeah, so I was with them for about 7.5 years, and Michael, we were eating breakfast one day. We actually do CrossFit together. That's how we met. I think, Lance, you're also familiar with this little sport, I think, from what I've read. Yeah, and so we were eating breakfast one morning, and he said, "Hey, why don't you go check out a brand for me?" And I thought, okay, well, this is weird, because this is, we had formed more of a business relationship in the terms of I would bounce ideas off of Michael, right? He was a friend. He knows my husband. He actually met my husband before I met my husband, which was at a CrossFit box, by the way. So CrossFit's really done a lot for me. But he told me to go check out a brand, and so I started to look into it. And for me, it's really important that what I do actually has a positive impact on the world in some small way. I'm one of those. I'm a dreamer. I want to leave it a little bit better than when I found it, right? In the second grade, my dad asked me, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And I replied, "A helper." So far, so good. I love it. Yeah. So I really, really enjoy watching small things grow in its most simplistic explanation, right? I'm not a corporate kind of person. I love the idea of jumping into something that wants to experience the level of growth that I'd like to deliver. I'm not real big into lifestyle brands, again, or the corporate ladder. Nothing wrong with those things. It's just not for me. I think I have more of that entrepreneurial spirit. I was raised by a father that he owned his own HVAC business. So you talk about not sexy businesses. That was one of them. Yeah. God love him. Yeah, he crawled in our houses where, the bottom of it's about an inch from his nose. And he had really fun spider visitors and snakes. And then you have to be in hot attics in July. And oh, by the way, I'm from Arkansas. So, the man's a saint, really. Because when you're hot, people scream really loud, and he came running. And so
I love it.
I think I really, I think I got that. I don't think I know. I got that from him. And I really wanted to be a part of that and have something that, again, positively impacts a community. There's really nothing like AC to make your day.
Yes.
But yeah, the more I dove into flower power and did my research, the more I discovered just what this brand does for people, does for
Perfect.
not only the franchisees but families and communities. So that's how I got here.
Well, we'll get back to you on that. Michael, let's hear about you. How'd you get into the world of franchising and flower power? Give us those highlights.
Sure. Restaurant guy my whole life. I've been fortunate enough to work on the corporate side of restaurants, then worked on the franchise side of restaurants, then worked in startups, then became a franchisee, then was on the founding team of a couple of brands. So, the franchising really got into my blood in the mid 1990s. I didn't know anything about it. And I was a corporate guy working for Brinker International. And I had a boss, his name's John Miller. And he was just the CEO of Denny's. Now he's the I believe, chairman. And he said, "Hey, man, do you want to become the director of franchise operations?" And I said, yes. I had no idea what it was. Didn't even know what franchising was.
Every smart person says yes first and figures it out later.
That's exactly. I was over promoted, but he saw something. So that's where I started to learn. So I've been this corporate guy for years, and they said march, I marched. They said sit down, I sat down. But then all of a sudden I got into franchising, and I got to meet these entrepreneurs who had the same passion and the same drive and the same love of what they were doing as I did, but they just thought a little bit differently. They went about their days a little bit differently. And I've actually fell in love with the franchisee before I fell in love with franchising. I liked the idea of how they attacked their businesses. And again, fast forward up until a couple of years ago, my business partner and I, Robert Maynard, we joined forces, and he had a dream, and his dream was to identify franchise or franchise capable businesses that either were founder driven and they reached a certain point and couldn't grow anymore with the founder, or the founder was aging out, or there was it was a good opportunity for us. So we started to look at different brands, and Flower Power was the first brand. And so we acquired that actually in August of last year. So coming up on 1 year. And when I looked at it and looked at the founder of that business and looked at what that business has done, and then looked at the competition, looked at the landscape, looked at really what the runway was, I felt and still feel that Flower Power, just from a name standpoint, as it's a catchy, fun, great name.
And Michael, by the way, let's share with everybody exactly what Flower Power is. FLOUR, in case you haven't figured that out by now.
That's correct. FLOUR, power. And started to think, why can't this brand has the bones to really be the dominant piece or the dominant player in the cooking studio segment, because there's really not one. But more importantly, I have two passions in life: people and food, and it satisfied both of those passions. So as we started to look for a leader, as Sarah mentioned, I'd known her for years, and watched her grow up in her current business, watched her get married, watched her get her MBA. Her questions over the 5 or 6 years that we were friends and we became, we'd share business practices with one another. Her questions over the years started to mature. Her ability to look behind whatever issues that she may have been facing started to widen. Mm-hmm. So when this opportunity arose, I thought, I think I know someone, and that's why I presented it to her. And
Got it.
she had a great sales tactic to sell herself. I mean, everyone should write this down, right? So I said, Sarah, I really want you to look at this brand, Flower Power. At the time, it was Flower Power Kids Cooking Studio. And tell me what your thoughts on it. So she did. She came back. I said, I really want to talk to you about you leading this brand, you being the president and the voice and the face of this brand. And here's was her selling point. And I'm going to quote, "Are you sure? I don't cook and I don't have kids." So that was her. Yeah, that was her. That was her. But quite frankly, that answer is why she's the right person, because she's introspective.
Love it.
She's humble, and she's the absolute perfect person to lead this brand.
So let's define, first of all, how big is a Flower Power location studio, and what exactly are you cooking? Who's the audience, etc.?
Yeah, so our studios are usually anywhere from about 1,600 square feet to about 2,100 square feet. All of our studios, with the exception of 3, are 2 kitchen studios. They're residential kitchens. They're not commercial kitchens, right? So it is truly learning and learning to cook, having that culinary experience at home versus in a restaurant, right? So we are casual, we are fun. That's what we lead with, right? I mean, they are all in traditional shopping center locations. We don't have any non-traditional locations, anchors, that kind of thing. Like I think I mentioned earlier, we have 15 active locations. We'll have 17 by the end of the year. And again, I like to say we offer culinary experiences. And people usually are like, well, what do you mean by that, right? Again, we are brick and mortar. It's important to note that, right? We do have our own signature kitchens. There are some other business concepts out there where they will use various locations, right? That's not us. We want to control the environment. We have a vision, right? So we want to control that. We're not just classes. So we have birthday parties, camps, family nights. We have adult sip and stirs. And everything in between. So we have custom holiday events. So it is a wide range, and it is for people of all ages. And that's the important part to really hone in on, is it's not just children.
I was just gonna get to that. Because that was the big transition when you guys took over, Michael. It was not just for kids anymore. You saw a broader reach, because there's a lot of people that don't know how to cook. Obviously, as a kid, you got to be able to reach the stove and safety first and all that. But there's tons of adults. You said it earlier, Michael. Sarah didn't know how to cook.
Well, I mean, it's not that Robert and I, we knew there was more there, and I would be lying if I had told you that, we had that, all the ideas that are now in play, but we knew more was there. But when Sarah got on a plane and flew to Charlotte to meet with Robert, she brought a deck with her. So she had done her study on the brand, and as she is a great student, and really at that initial interview laid out what we're doing today. There's been some fine tuning along the way, but if we were to go back and look at that first deck that she put together when she came and interviewed with Robert for the position, it's about 90% of what's being done today.
Gotcha. And so what is the investment, the franchise investment to get into a Flower Power all in? What is that range? What is that average? Obviously, it depends on construction costs and what real estate you acquire. Most of these, I'm sure, if not all, are just leased spaces. So Correct. What is that number?
Yeah. So it's anywhere, which we'll find the FDDs, it's anywhere from 200,000 to 400,000 all in. Mm-hmm.
Got it. And who is the typical franchisee that you're looking for? I mean, if you're going to look at your top performers today, I know you've only been in since last August, but looking at your current top performers and what you project to be future top performers, who are those people that are doing this?
Yeah, I mean, what we have found, regardless of the background, it seems to be because there's a wide variety there. My first 90 days with the company, I got on a plane, and I actually I visited every single location, every single owner, right? And I learned a lot very quickly, and it was that there was zero commonality in their background. It has nothing, it doesn't seem to have any real bearing on their interest. Two major things really came into play that stood out. One is there are people that like to be involved in their community. They love that. They like that piece of it. They want to be an active player, right? So we don't just say that lightly. It's very real. And then the second thing is that they had either they had a friend, or somehow they found out about a child that had a positive experience in a flower power studio, and they saw the change in the child. And so that is a big one, right? So what one of our top franchisees, you want to talk about top franchisees, one of our top franchisees, in operations, sales, whole nine yards, he had one of his children was actually experiencing being bullied, right? Was in soccer, wasn't so great at soccer, but when it comes to a kitchen environment, everybody's on an equal playing field, right? So you don't have to be good at sports. You don't have to be good at playing an instrument, be the smartest kid in the class, right? Cooking is for everybody. So it really resonated, and it really started to help his child. And so that is really the two biggest things. One is they either have a child or know a child that had a positive impact in the Flower Power Studio, or they want to be actively involved in the community, or it's usually a combination of both.
Love it. What are the hours of operation of a typical studio?
Sure. So currently, they're open anywhere from as early as 8:30 in the morning to as late as 8:30 at night, depending on what they're offering. Usually, early morning you get more preschool, right? If you have something during the middle of the day, again, depending on the time of year and the day that it is. Usually, like on an average work week, that's more of your adults coming in because they're not in school, right? You have corporate events, and then in your evenings you have either classes for kids, you have kids night outs, depending on the day, where they come in, they make two dishes, they have activities that they do, or you've got camps that can last all day long, right? And of course, we have some adult sip and stir events, and those are at night.
What was that event? The sip and serve?
It's a adult sip and stir.
Sip and stir. Okay.
Yes, sip and stir. Yeah, because
I was drinking a martini and making a quiche. Is that what I was doing? No.
Exactly. We can make all of those dreams come true. But yes, that is exactly what we do. Yeah.
So we could spend so much time talking about the food, because that's, of course, my passion as well. But simply put, for the listeners, how complicated does this get? I would imagine it's as simple as cookies to as complicated as, well, I'm not sure how complicated. So you share that with me.
Sure. So it can't be too complicated, or I can't join. So it's important to know that all of our experiences are, they do range, right? But it is not a hardcore cooking school, right? So we do have more challenging recipes. We can make more things from scratch, depending on kind of where you are. We meet you where you are, right? And so there's no level of talent required to come in our studios. And depending on your age and experience level, we have offerings that are more advanced than others. We do have a master chef that is more advanced if you're more comfortable with that, right? But for the most part, it is casual recipes. And again, it is all over the board. So, and that's intentional, because as humans, we like a wide variety, right? And we have various preferences and food allergies and things of that nature that we cater to. But we have over 1,800 recipes in our database, right? So if you name it, we probably have it. And yeah, as far as the complexity, of course, when you have a 2.5-year-old walk in, you usually aren't going to give them a knife, right? So their thing is a lot of stirring, maybe crack an egg depending on where they are, but. So we can absolutely customize it, but it is not a hardcore school. No, it's not.
Got it. So let's talk about the process. So I'm a franchise broker. I deliver somebody to you as a prospect. Take me through the process. Obviously, they could find you on your website as well. You have a great looking website. What is that process like? Obviously, franchise selection is a two-way street. How long is the process? Give us everything you go through. I'm assuming there's some sort of validation where you get to speak to existing happy franchisees throughout the process as well.
Sure. Yeah. So I've been talking for a while. Michael, did you want to tackle that one?
Sure.
Okay.
And it's a good question because as we mentioned, we acquired the brand in August of last year. We were dark on franchise sales from August until March intentionally, while Sarah and her team, and I failed to mention her team, Julia, Chelsea, and Sherry, who are phenomenal at what they do, and we'll talk about them here in a little bit. But so in March, when we kicked off, the idea is it was taking the learnings that Sarah had mentioned, having someone that either they know a child or they have a child that has been positively affected by Flower Power, and then the sense of community. So, the process is not not different than any other franchise process. You got to have interest. Then once you have interest, really it's more for us right now. And this is franchising 101, and I'm going to use the term fit because while the brand is a decade plus old, and we've got some great, stable, growing franchisees, whoever the first person we sign on will be Sarah's first to sign on under this regime. Awesome. So it's really important, and so I would say we're a little hypersensitive to that, on making sure that we are bringing on the right franchisee to complement our current franchisees. So the back and forth of the get to know you is just that. It is a two-way street. The potential franchisee has to have those desires that we've already talked about, but on our side, it's really looking at why are they looking, and then more importantly, why Flower Power. I think it was last week, Sarah and I were fortunate enough to talk to a couple that were interested. And there seems to be this great synergy when there's a husband and wife or partner and partner, because it's a kind of a yin and a yang, right? The reason they're usually together is because they complement one another. So whenever our current franchisees, and then as we're taking calls with potential franchisees, whenever there's some type of partner and or spouse that are there together, it seems to fulfill the entire picture. So as they go through that process, it's a lot of conversation because again, we're just a year into it, just been offering franchises since March. So we would be lying if we would say, hey, we got it all figured out. But here's what we do know. We do know that franchisees are first. And I learned that years ago, and Sarah's heard me preach this, and her team has heard me preach this. At the end of the day, I feel the brands work for the franchisees, and here's what I mean by that. It's such a odd business model where I sell you, Lance, a franchise. You give me money for said franchise. I do my pre-opening obligations. I get you open, and then you pay me a royalty fee so that you can go to work every day and operate the brand through our intellectual property and our training and all of those things. Well, the reality is, if you're a franchise company such as Flower Power, when the team members get their paychecks, when Sarah gets her paycheck, when Julie gets her paycheck, it's the franchisees' royalties that are paying that paycheck. It's not me, it's not Robert, it's not One Life, it's the franchisees. So we have to have a servant mentality. We have to really be cognizant of where the money's coming from, and we have to have people that are willing to want to serve and resonate with that. So all that goes to the process to make sure that whoever we're talking to is going to be able to grow with us, because there will be some bumps in the road. There'll be some turns. Now, the good news is, unlike I'm sure businesses you've done in the past, Lance, we actually did all the pre-work first. Before, I've done shoot, then aim. This one, we actually aimed first. We spent the time, we spent the money. More importantly, Sarah spent the time. And I feel that Flower Power, with Sarah's team, with the curriculum that they built, with the vision that they have, it is as close to ready to launch as anything I've ever seen.
Yeah. Good. You know, when I joined Wingstop, it was not really ready to expand. Food cost was out of control. Revenue was not there. Sounds like you guys are far ahead of where I was when I started with Wingstop. So I applaud you. I mean, look, to use another expression, done beats perfect. You'll never be perfect getting any brand absolutely perfect. It doesn't happen. It's always a work in progress. And it sounds like, look, if I'm going to bring people to you, they're going to be happy with a culture like yours. That's obvious. So I applaud you guys for that. Let's segue into training. So we have the appropriate franchisee now. How are you going to train them? What's different? What's so special about it? What's that process, time commitment, all that good stuff?
Yeah, sure. So first off, we have I call it, anytime we have a branded item, I call it, we have a flower powerized document. And so we have a beautiful flower powerized document. It's a noodle. It's really cute. Goes to little thing spaghetti. And it shows you the process you're about to walk through and who you're going to walk through it with and time frame. Right. So it's all branded really nice. So it's just like, hey, I understand you're here. You might be a little nervous, you know, along with your excitement. Here's an idea of what you can expect. Right. So we'll start there. And then we start to introduce to the right team. So when it comes to training, somebody like, we'll take me, for example. You asked me to walk into a classroom and run it a year ago. I'm going to look at you like you have four heads, right? Because so much of this is culinary instruction. I don't have a very strong background in that, as Michael has alluded to earlier. So, two main people that are going to get you there. One, this is where the really fun part where I get to introduce my team. But one, you're going to meet a woman by the name of Sherry Ragazzo. So she's been with the brand now for 14 years. So that woman has seen everything. She knows where, as we say, all the bodies are buried, right? And she knows all there is to know about Flower Power and how to get you ready and confident in that kitchen, right? So first off, you're going to meet her, and she's really going to walk you through that process. And she has an entire checklist for you to follow as well, in addition to the overview. You're also going to meet a woman by the name of Chef Chelsea Gum. So she's another member of our leadership team. So she has 18 years of culinary instruction experience. So she is actually a chef by trade, but for the younger humans. So she spent a lot of time with her own children in high school, teaching high school students and building out that program and curriculum. So she really understands the equal parts of culinary arts, as far as here's what you're going to do to instruct others, and then here's the actual art of instructing. So she took those two things, married them together. And so between those two people, right, and the extensive amount of training that we're going to give you as far as actually on site, you're going to be well covered. So those are the two main people. Concerning, other aspects of your business, right? It's, a little thing called marketing and PR, where people actually need to know about you and understand that you're here, you're on the scene, and you have a studio, and you're open for business. You're going to meet a woman by the name of Julia Gibson. So she's been with the brand now since December. So Julie is our VP of Branding Strategies, and she's absolutely brilliant at what she does. She's a 30-year vet. She's worked for all types of companies, including franchises. She did work for 7-Eleven. And she is one of those that is I would say not a generalist, but she has extensive knowledge in multiple areas, right? So I think a general, sometimes it says, hey, I'm why we don't go deep. But she is excellent at asking the right questions to get the new franchisees to think in the right ways of how to make sure the message of their business is getting in the hands of the right people. So she's great at it. A little background about Julia and why she's so passionate for all of our Flower Power franchisees, that she actually purchased a cooking summer camp of her own. So she purchased it the summer before she came on board with us. So she has done this before herself, and she loves it. But yeah, she's incredible when it comes to having a heart for this and making sure that the franchisees and the incoming ones, right, are marketing this in the correct way. So you're going to meet a dream team, essentially, is what you're going to meet, and I'm very proud of all of them. But
no, it sounds fantastic. Let's elaborate a little bit more on the marketing piece, because look, franchising, it's all about the support and it's all about the marketing. I think you certainly laid out an amazing case on the support side and the whole new staff and the investment you guys are making in your franchisees. Talk about marketing. I mean, how do you stand out? I don't know that there's much competition, but talk a little bit about your goals with the marketing and how you help franchisees ramp up quickly.
Sure. So I can't talk about marketing without referring to our recent rebrand, right? So as we had alluded to earlier, it used to be called, the title of the company was Flower Power Kids Cooking Studios. It is now Flower Power Cooking Studios because we are for people of all ages, right? And by the way, we did have offerings for all people, but we're a little more clear in our purpose now with the rebrand. We had a logo that was more, dare I say, kiddie kind of, not as mature as the one that we have today, right? So we certainly didn't make it to where it's a sophisticated, stuffy type logo. It still has vibrant colors. You still see lowercase f and p. It's still a fun font, sans serif, right? So it's nothing that is overly strict, but we made sure that we gave it a fresh new look and feel, so that people felt comfortable of all ages coming into our studios and understood that we are a casual, fun cooking studio. So first we started with the rebrand, right, to make sure that people had the right idea of who we are. And then we reintroduced ourselves to the world, right? We had a major press release that went out, made it clear what our vision is, what our mission is for all people. And then we slowly, dare I say painfully at times, started to rebrand every single digital asset and print asset that we have for all of our franchisees. So that became absolutely first and foremost, so that anything that they had currently, they were leading with the new branding, right? So that they could help to expand their own consumer base in their markets, so that people understood we are not just solely for children. Because they were already getting questions from adults of, hey, this looks really fun. I want to do it. Can I go do it? It's like, well, you might want to do it in somebody, more of your own age, or it could be a little weird. But yes, we do have offerings for you, but it made it more clear to that, right? So it was important for us, for them to be able to lead with that. And so providing all digital assets, we provide a monthly social media calendar, right? So that they have all the content. So if they literally just want to take that, customize it to their own location and post it out, we provide all of that for them and all of the digital assets behind it, right? And then we have a couple of software tools that we gain some of our foot traffic analytics. Julia pulls those reports and says, hey, just so you know, in your particular area, you have, you might have an upper hand in XYZ because of your demographics, because of who's around you, because of where they're going and where they came from after they left your studio or came to your studio, right? So she's helping to provide these type of insights to them so they can help to tweak their marketing methods as they need, helping to identify every school district, any type local college, homeschool, any type of nonprofit, right, that's in the area. So she's really making sure that they have fully fleshed out every single opportunity they have to contact somebody in their area that might be interested in attending a Flower Power studio. So I don't want to go into the weeds of it too much, but I will end with we also have we partner closely with a marketing firm called the Power Group. They are a Dallas-based firm. They are women-owned, women-led and run, and they have done a phenomenal job of reaching out to our franchisees one by one, getting their story and pitching that story right to media outlets. So we now have about a dozen articles where they have been featured. Right, Carolina Speaks is what was our most recent one for our Fort Mill, South Carolina franchisee. They've been in news segments. We had one in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, that was on Pittsburgh Talk, and she was able to do a demo in the middle of the day where all eyes are on it, right, with her and her daughter. So we do everything that we can to pour into the franchisees to get them the most opportunities possible. So does that help to answer the question? A little clarity?
Absolutely. I know the listeners are understanding very clearly, listening to how you listen to your franchisees, how you listened on your initial tour of all the locations, how you're getting their testimonials, essentially getting them on the news, getting them out there for the community, because there's nothing better to spread the word of what you're doing. And I absolutely love it. One of the things that a lot of listeners that aren't even sure if a franchise is right for them, they sometimes miss out on all this collaboration. There's so much collaboration between successful franchisees where they get to share their best practices. And from what I understand from you guys, You have quite a few franchisees that are now multi-unit franchisees or going to be multi-unit franchisees. Talk a little bit about that.
Sure. Yeah. So first, I want to touch on something you mentioned earlier, and you said collaboration within the franchise, because that is one of the big advantages to joining a franchise, right? Is you are essentially joining a team, right? So that you can share ideas and best practices in a business model that is identical. You may be in different markets, but what you're executing is the same. And so, one of the things that we found very important was to increase the communication between the franchisees. When we first showed up on the scene, they had never had an event where they all met each other face to face. That had never occurred. Yeah. And I was a little floored by that, right? Because in my prior role, it's all about relationships. That's relationships are king, right? So I thought, and I had just gone on a studio visit where I had heard one say, well, I'm really strong in finance, but I'm really terrible in marketing. Another one go, well, I'm really great in marketing, but I'm really terrible at finance. I'm like, hey, a very simplistic example, but it's like, and you two have never talked to each other, not one time. How, right? So I made sure, first off, that everybody got a list of, here's every location, every person's name, and their contact information. Call them, right? We struck up a newsletter that we send out every 2 weeks, no matter what, come hell or high water, it goes out the door. And we make sure that they're all on the same page. And we encourage the collaboration, not only with us, but within the team as well, right? So
love it.
Constantly being transparent there. We created a franchise advisory council, and we split everyone into teams. And we're asking them, hey, meet monthly, and then I'll meet with you quarterly and take everything back. But it got them all on a call together. We hosted our first conference. So I just want to touch on that a little bit to really explain just the amount of importance that we put on this, because it's all about helping each other, right? It's not just about the franchise coming in on a white horse and saving somebody, right? That's not, we can't do that, right? We're human too, right? It's one at a time, but if you can help each other, I mean, that's a synergistic effect, right? So we just really honed in on that and made sure that we beat that drum. But
I love it.
So I'll move forward on that. But my goodness, I forgot about what was the other question.
No. You've answered all of it. You've answered all of it. Let's look. You guys have given a ton of great information. I think the brand, you guys have done it all right, and another new launching pad, so to speak, to the new Flower Power. Final thoughts from both of you. Final thoughts, tips, words of wisdom. Michael, why don't you go first? We'll give Michael the first word and Sarah the last word on this.
Yeah, good. First off, again, thank you for having us on. And
absolutely,
franchising is really a special segment in any industry, because as Sarah touched on. Over the years, I've seen and have been a part of successful franchises, and I've seen and been a part of, unfortunately, not so successful franchises. And what's the difference between the two? You think, I'm going to say people. Well, it is people, but more importantly, it's the access to those people and that collaboration. And that's why we feel it's just direly important for all of our franchisees to be in communication with one another, because at the end of the day, Sarah could hang up from this call and go, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm going to go be a president of another franchise. Franchisees can't do that. Franchisees, they've signed leases, they've signed franchise agreements. They usually leverage some type of investment, whether it's on their home or a bank note. They're in it. They are in it. So if there's someone out there that's thinking, do I want to be a franchisee? Is this for me? I've got this itch. I just challenge you to make sure that the franchise you choose and the franchisor, no matter the industry or the segment, that they share your beliefs and your characteristics, and they truly are in it for you to win, not for them to win. And there's a lot of great examples out there. We're just one of them. There's a lot of other great examples out there. But that, for me, that is the key, ensuring that whoever's interested in franchising, do your homework. Don't just ask the basic questions. How much money can I make? How many days a week am I going to work? Am I going to be able to have a good lifestyle? you have to just assume yes on all those and really peel back the layers a little bit more and find out what that particular franchisor was about, what ownership's about, and how they ended up where they are today.
Awesome. Wonderful. Sarah, final thoughts, final words of wisdom.
Yeah, sure. So one of the things we didn't really get to touch on was just the meaning and the purpose behind the brand. So so many people go, you're a cooking studio franchise. That's unique. That's different. Why you? Why not your typical, burger, taco, breakfast, brunch spot, franchise chicken? Why cooking studio? And the big piece of our why is, one, our mission is to make cooking your love language. And our vision, right, is to change the perception of what it means to cook and prepare a meal together. The reason why cooking, you can do other things to bring people together. One, it is, quite frankly, it is a universal love language, right? When it comes to kids, right, there's a 1% chance your kid's going to go play for any type of a professional sport. There's 100% chance they are going to eat for the rest of their life, right? So we certainly think that these skills and life lessons are important, but more so than that, we really believe in the act of cooking and its benefits to people, right? It increases feelings of well-being. It decreases depression, anxiety, stress. So we not only think it's, Flower Power is a great way to positively impact people physically because what's on your plate matters, which is our catchphrase. But it's also because it provides the social and the mental aspects of it and improvement that we've seen time and time again for people that engage with our studio. So I just want to make sure that people really understand the why behind what we're doing, not just what we do, because in my opinion, that's the most important part.
I love it. Sarah, that's a perfect way to end it. Sarah and Michael, Flower Power is the franchise. Thank you both for being here. This was awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Lance.
My pleasure. Thank you very much for listening today. Please like, follow, and subscribe. This is Lance Graulich. Until next time.